In modern travel, a late arrival is usually met with frustration, regret, or rescheduled plans. But for one woman in India, being 10 minutes late meant something far greater. It meant survival. On June 12, 2025, Air India Flight AI171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner en route to London, crashed just seconds after takeoff from Ahmedabad, killing 241 people on board. Yet among the grief and wreckage emerged an extraordinary twist of fate. Bhoomi Chauhan, a 28-year-old student, missed the doomed flight by the narrowest of margins. This is the story of how traffic, desperation, and a denied boarding became the miracle that saved her life. Bhoomi Chauhan, 28, is a business administration student living in Bristol, UK, with her husband. She had returned to visit family in Ankleshwar, a city over 200 kilometers from Ahmedabad. On that fateful day, she and her husband left early to catch flight AI171 to London Gatwick. But as their vehicle entered Ahmedabad, traffic ground to a halt. We were stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic. The car wasn't moving. Every minute that passed felt like I was getting further away from the flight, Bhoomi recalled. As minutes ticked away, tension mounted in the vehicle. Bhoomi's husband tried to reassure her, but she couldn't shake the growing fear of missing their flight. Despite having checked in online and securing seat 36G, Bhoomi reached the airport at 12:20 p.m., just 10 minutes past the boarding time. She rushed to the counter and pleaded with airline staff to let her board. She showed her boarding pass, insisted she had no checked luggage, and begged them to make an exception. But her pleas were met with a firm refusal. I was devastated. I broke down in tears thinking, "I was just a few minutes late, why can't I get on?" she said, her voice still shaky as she recalled the moment. Little did she know, that same refusal would later become the very reason she survived. Frustrated and heartbroken, Bhoomi and her husband left the airport and stopped at a small roadside tea stall near the exit of Ahmedabad International Airport. She sat quietly, lost in thought, clutching a cup of hot tea as her husband called their travel agent to inquire about a refund. Bhoomi couldn't stop blaming herself for not leaving earlier, or the driver for choosing the wrong route. And then, her phone rang. I remember that moment so vividly. I picked up the call and only heard a few words. The flight has crashed. My heart stopped. I froze, and my cup nearly dropped from my hand. At first, she thought she misheard, but then came a flood of messages, video calls, and breaking news alerts. Breaking news: Air India flight crashes after takeoff. She frantically checked every detail. Flight number: AI171. Route: Ahmedabad to London Gatwick. Takeoff time: just minutes earlier. Everything matched. I looked at my husband. We were speechless. The place we had just left, the gate I had pleaded to enter, had become the site of a tragedy. According to eyewitnesses near the crash site, the Boeing 787 appeared to experience technical issues the moment it lifted off. Instead of ascending smoothly, the plane wobbled, lost altitude, and crashed into a residential area just 30 seconds after takeoff. The aircraft tore through the roofs of two four-story buildings before exploding. Flames engulfed the neighborhood, and thick black smoke filled the skies. National news channels aired devastating scenes: charred wreckage, scattered luggage, first responders digging through rubble, and rows of bodies covered with white sheets along the sidewalks. A total of 241 passengers and 12 crew members perished, making it one of India's worst aviation disasters in a decade. Among the victims were 53 British citizens, including an entire family of 3 from London, who were returning from a family visit to Gujarat. Another couple, British citizens of Indian origin and founders of a London-based healing center, were also on board. Their wellness initiatives had gained widespread admiration in the Indian diaspora community in the UK. Many others were students, migrant workers, or business people traveling between Europe and South Asia. For their families, the flight carried not just baggage, but hopes of reunion, now lost forever. There was only one miraculous survivor, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, 34, a British national originally from Gujarat. He was found conscious but severely injured, trapped between two rows of seats in a relatively intact section of the rear fuselage. He is currently being treated in the intensive care unit at Ahmedabad Civil Hospital. In the world of professional cycling, Maarten de Jonge may not be a household name, but in aviation history, his story is nothing short of extraordinary. He is remembered for escaping not just one, but two of the most devastating airline disasters in modern memory: Malaysia Airlines flights MH370 and MH117, both in the same year, 2014. In March 2014, de Jonge, then racing for the Malaysian team Terengganu, had booked a seat on Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, scheduled to fly from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. It was part of his travel plans to compete in a race. However, at the last minute, he decided to switch to an earlier flight in order to arrive in Beijing, with more time to rest before the event. That seemingly mundane choice would later save his life. MH370 took off on March 8, 2014, and disappeared from radar screens soon after. Despite extensive international search efforts, the aircraft has never been fully recovered, and all 239 people on board are presumed dead. The exact cause of the disappearance remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. After those brushes with death, de Jonge refused further interviews, stating that he didn't want to make light of the tragedy. "My story is nothing compared to the grief of the victims' families," he wrote on his website. Just 4 months later, de Jonge once again had a near-death encounter. He had booked a seat on Malaysia Airlines flight MH117, traveling from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. However, after comparing ticket prices, he decided to change his booking to a cheaper flight. On July 17, 2014, MH117 departed from Amsterdam but never reached its destination. While flying over eastern Ukraine, the aircraft was shot down by a surface-to-air missile in a conflict zone between Ukrainian forces and pro-Russian separatists. All 298 people on board were killed, including many children and citizens from over a dozen countries. The tragedy sent shockwaves across the globe and sparked widespread outrage. Following these two near misses, de Jonge became an overnight media sensation. Headlines labeled him the luckiest man alive and the cyclist who dodged death twice. But de Jonge chose to step out of the spotlight. He declined interview requests and released a brief statement on his personal website, explaining that he had no desire to glorify his survival at the expense of others' suffering. "I could have been on both flights, but my story is nothing compared to the grief of the victims' families. I don't want to make light of such a tragedy." Since then, he has continued his cycling career quietly and without exploiting the global attention. De Jonge's story remains a rare tale of fate, humility, and perspective. A man who not only escaped death, but also chose dignity over drama in the face of unthinkable luck. Immediately after the AI171 tragedy, the Indian government ordered a national emergency investigation. Authorities from the Directorate General of Civil Aviation and the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau secured the crash site, collected the black boxes, and began examining flight data. India's Transport Minister, Nitin Gadkari, stated that uncovering the cause of the crash is both a moral and legal responsibility. He pledged to release a preliminary report within 30 days and demanded a comprehensive review of all Boeing 787 maintenance and training protocols. "We will not tolerate any negligence in maintenance or operations," Gadkari emphasized. Meanwhile, scrutiny toward Boeing is intensifying once again. Although no technical fault has yet been officially confirmed in the AI171 incident, aviation experts and global media are raising fresh concerns about the safety of Boeing's wide-body aircraft. This comes amid a troubling pattern of recent events, most notably an incident where the emergency exit door of a Boeing 737 MAX 9 detached mid-air during an Alaska Airlines flight. Additionally, internal whistleblowers have accused Boeing of rushing production schedules and cutting back on critical safety inspections at its factories. Compounding these worries, the FAA had previously grounded the 787 Dreamliner over structural flaws involving wing components and fasteners. These issues are now being revisited as part of a broader examination of Boeing's manufacturing and oversight standards. Major outlets like the New York Times and BBC have reopened investigations into Boeing's safety track record, pointing to long-standing concerns about quality control and reliance on subcontractors. Dr. Rajiv Sharma, an aviation safety expert in New Delhi, remarked, "If this turns out to be a technical failure, it would severely damage global trust in Boeing, not just in India." Air India has temporarily grounded several Boeing 787s for further inspection. Boeing issued a brief statement confirming its cooperation with investigators and its full commitment to supporting the inquiry. In a world where every decision, every delay, detour, or moment of hesitation can set off a chain of irreversible consequences, Bhoomi Chauhan's story is a chilling testament to the randomness of survival. Her missed flight became a second chance. For others, the same journey ended in heartbreak and unanswered questions. As investigators sift through wreckage and data to understand what went wrong, the world watches not only with sorrow but also with growing demands for transparency and reform. Whether through sheer luck, divine intervention, or mechanical failure, Flight AI171 has become more than just a tragedy. It is now a reckoning for the future of aviation safety. In the shadow of disaster, the question remains, how many more near misses, whistleblowers, or miracles will it take before the industry truly listens?